have this amazing ability.
Yeah.
You know, I look back at Elton John, all these people, you're thinking, they knew it. They knew what they were doing, and they stuck at it.
Yeah.
And I would say to them, because they had a voice, and what they did, and you can see, is they fought to have that voice heard. We all, when we start off, are heavily influenced by, you know, I used to look at photographers, whatever. I mean, it was a crazy moment, a very crazy moment. But at the end of my third year, I wrote my first thesis on the history of war photography.
Oh, okay.
So I've got, I mean, I'm still am a great, so I haven't got the thing, I'm just talking.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, in case I spread things, James. I had this moment, and I got as far as the army, because this was my thinking. I have this strange way of connecting dots.
Okay.
So if I'm going to be a war photographer, I have to survive, not just do it. So if I signed up, I had a friend who was in the army. He said, look, if you go in with a degree, you'll become an officer. Yeah. And the chances are, you can go in, you'll do your basic training, but you go in and you can become a photographer, whatever, and you'll get a driver, they'll drive you around. And I had hair right down here, you know, very little bit now, but it was like that here. I got to the door of the army recruitment office. Yeah. And I thought, no. Part of it, I didn't want a haircut. I mean, seriously, part of my reason for going into art school education was I didn't need to have a haircut. You know, there's this strange thing of motivation because I just had this whole plethora of hair, whatever. But anyway, but it's this where we find ourselves in time and space where something happens. You know, the planets come together, whatever. Yeah. And I had this when. In the early 91, it was, I was brought in to, and I put on an independent film festival. My students at the time were, ran it, whatever. I got £1,000, 500 quid from West Midlands Arts. I was working in Warwickshire at the time. 500 quid from the local council. Local arts cinema gave us the theatre. We put 5 days. I had 5 speakers, £1,000. I said every speaker, and we had Steve Dworskin. We had a whole great set of people, different aspects of video art, performance art, documentary, art films, whatever. And I said, 200 quid. That's everything. It costs you 300 quid to get here, and I can't help you because I don't have any money. And West Midlands Arts said it was the best film festival they'd ever found. And I said, independent film festival. I said, well, since it's the only one you've ever done, I'm not surprised it's the best one. But the following year, and it was hard work. I mean, it really is. Because anybody who puts on a festival, whatever it is, has no content. I'm going to put a photograph. I mean, I've been worked, quite closely as being an advisor to Photo East, photography festival. You can come up with these things, but you've got to not just get the money, but you've got to have content. The content's got to be good enough to get people in. So but if you're doing it on a budget, you can't go to somebody and say, I'll give you £1 million to have a talk. But and it's your enthusiasm, it's the seriousness that you take what you're doing, because I think whatever artist, whether it's music or whether it's fine arts or the visual arts, whatever, the participants want to know that you're taking it seriously. Absolutely. And they have got, at the end of the day, it's all about your CV. Your CV is about the most important thing that you can ever have. It's you. It's the only thing you've got. I've got 40 years on my CV. I can't, if I didn't tot it up, I wouldn't remember 60%
what you've done.
And these things are important for people to contribute. You've got to have something that people think, you're small, whatever, you don't have the money, but what you're trying to do is, like you now, you're trying to do this, it's important. And I recognize that importance. So for me, doing this for you is I recognize what you're trying to do, and you'll take it seriously, therefore I take it seriously.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, sure.
So Birmingham Film Festival, the big film festival, asked me, and they said, wow, you were so successful with this. I thought, really? Okay. Anyway, can you do the same thing for us at the Birmingham Film Festival?
Okay.
Independent. underground film festival.
Yeah.
I go mainstream. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. I said, okay. I said, I need somebody for 6 months, like a PA, whatever. I said, I've done all this with nothing.
Yeah.
This is, in those days, you couldn't email people. You had to write to them, or you had to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So it's like,
it's a very slow process. Yeah, sure.
And they said, oh no, we thought you just turn up with it. I said, well, I'm not doing it. And of course, by then, I'd already got involved with computer and digital technologies from about 84, 85.
Yeah.
And so I'd been working and experimenting, and I got a lot into multimedia, and I was very interested how visual imagery could be interactive, whether it's film or photographs, etc. So all this is sitting for 5 years or so, background of this. And then I was working, I'd gone and I'd done a class, 1 hour a week, in the evening, 2 hours a week, to learn digital technologies, and I learned to write HTML, do a website, even though there wasn't even a browser really for the Mac, but it was all like, and then I discovered, and I met this guy, and he was a big techie, and I realized that you could stream films across the internet. Now I'm talking now, this is like a long time ago. And I thought, okay, the next film festival I do is not going to be in physical space, because it bloody, it's just like, it's too much. Too much in the logistics. Sitting at home again. And so I created 2 companies. I started 2 companies with him. And one of them was for venture capital. And it started when we had a film company, a documentary film company came to us. And you remember now that Amazon had just kicked off. Early days of Amazon. Amazon was doing books. That's that was their first thing. They had a cover of the book, and you couldn't even look inside it. It was just the cover, whatever. Don't buy a book, judge a book by its cover. But that's what you could do. And they had 600 documentary films. They were made for History Channel, whatever. And they wanted a shopping cart, which is what it was. There was nothing that you could get like PayPal. I mean, it's all different now. So it's very expensive to have done. But I had a company. We set this company up. They were our first client, and it got us going. But it also got me thinking. Nick and I, who we worked very closely together, is one of my directors. He was interested in film and stuff. And we did a lot of experimentation. In the end, cut a long story short, we were the first. This was the first website where you could watch 600 1-minute clips of movies.
Oh wow! Okay.
Nobody else was doing.
Nobody else is doing that on the planet. Oh wow.
So I said, if we can do this, and because they were very carefully chosen. If you moved, it was all pixels. So every pixel in the documentary was like basically a still. Effectively, it was a bit like a Ken Burns thing, really. And, we did all this, and I wanted to take this even further. And with discussions, I had ideas, and Nick had ideas, and we put together another company, which was called moviefeast.com. It later became forcine.co.uk, when the name got hijacked because we didn't renew it. So it changed, but it was to raise venture capital to a film, a movie feast of film. But it was education. Remember, I spent most of my life in arts education. So we interviewed people. I got to taste Ken Russell, Lord Putnam, a whole variety of filmmakers, writers, directors, location managers.
Fantastic.
And you had like a 2-minute clip, either with video or with audio, or just text. Because you're talking 56K modems that just come in. Price 40K. On the horizon was something called ADSL, but really nobody. Basically, it was big companies that had.
That.
But it was coming. We knew it was coming, so we're prepping. And we got together. We had a guy in Los Angeles who was a film producer. He's a finance guy, because I learned an awful lot about financing, not just in films, but the whole notion.
Whole system,
and it's like serious noughts on the ends. You know, you go to your bank. The first loan I ever got was for was 15 quid for a zoom lens from my bank manager when I just left art school.
Oh wow!
And then you got to start putting zeros on the end about that.
Oh, absolutely,
because unless you've got big bucks, they're not interested. It's gambling.
No,
The whole thing is about gambling.
Yeah.
And we put this together. We had the website, we had the skills, etc. We didn't have to pay anybody. We had all these interviews. We had clips. We worked with an archive footage company where we hosted their archive footage, which they got open source, if you like. So it was all running really well. And then I'll never forget it. I think it was February the 17th, 2001.
Oh, okay.
Look at your bank account where I have sold you, because it's all about selling, reselling, packaging. And that gave me a good idea about what happened in the crash when people are repackaging debt, stuff like that. But it's all, finances are very sort of like, basically it's gambling. You go to the casinos, you'll see that's what they do. They gamble.
They gamble the money.
And it never happened. We never really knew. We lost all contact. I kept the website going for about 3 or 4 years. But what we were proposing, and this was the crazy thing, we were invited to the Yahoo Online Film Festival 2000. There wasn't a film online. We were doing stuff. We thought, God, we're going to Los Angeles. You got invited and all this. And you think, where is it? Where's all this online? Whatever. People were talking about order your pizza online, and it was crazy time. First Tuesday, venture capitalism. That whole thing of the internet.com, we were right in the middle of it. We had people coming to us and saying, oh, I got this great idea. I need a website to do a presentation to the money people. And they said, okay, it's going to cost you this. We haven't got any money, but we'll give you 10% of the company. He said, no, I think we prefer cash at this point. Because we're thinking there was some crazy idea. It was absolutely the Wild West. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
I'd love to have been at the beginning of photography, what it must have been like to have this whole
pioneers to be,
pioneers. And then film, the whole thing about film. And there I was, without realizing it, I was in the middle of the biggest revolution. And it was exciting. It was this massive roller coaster of madness. Anyway, we didn't go through it, whatever. And I went back to photography then. Video, whatever. But that was like 15 years ago, and it's brought me up to date where I'm now going back and trying to collate stuff. And try to make sense, really, of like 40 odd years of time.
How do you do that? How do you such an archive? How do you make
it? Is well, the archive is actually quite sketchy because a lot of the early computer stuff I either got lost or the discs don't read anymore. But the big thing is, like the computers, and of course, you can't read them. The modern computer system is the.
And I mean,
if you've got a negative on a piece of film, you can always fucking see it.
It's like forever, but if you've got technology.
One thing, my neg boxes, I can still see them, and they go back to 1972. My computer, which goes back to 83, 84, I can't see it anymore. Find an old computer to read it and stuff like that. But I just, with all that, I say, okay, sometimes your archive is it's a ghost archive. It's an archive of an experience as opposed to the physicality.
Which is an amazing thing, isn't it?
I quite like that sort of idea. Is that, I've got all this work, but it doesn't exist anymore. No. It exists once. Once you switch the machine off, it doesn't exist anymore. And that's going to be a big issue. I know the cloud and stuff, but how what does it do today? How do they archive what they do? Because I work with the grandfather, father, son backups. And I know that, technology changes. I've got to migrate. It's just like crazy stuff with digital. Actually,
there's leapfrogs exponentially, isn't it? And photography is, a product of technology, and everything gets superseded, like CD, DVDs.
I get lead. Try and connect something. I say, well, I can't connect that, because some of my technology is quite old. And I think, what am I going to do in the future? People say, oh, you got to upgrade. I haven't got the money to upgrade. I don't want to. I'm quite happy. It is Leica, and it would be brilliant. But no, you're using a piece of modern technology that's going to be out of date in 5 months because Apple says, no, you can't have that. we want you to have this.
It's all very fragile, isn't it? Yeah, it's all very
Very, very fragile.
Very fragile.
It is very fragile.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Really, like you said, you know, silver gelatin negative and the silver gelatin print is very stable compared to.
Incredibly. Paper is the most. I didn't realize this because we were pushed very early on into the digital world.
Yeah.
And it was a friend of mine who worked for the government. He said, "Do you know, we talk about digital archives, all this. Do you know what the biggest archive the government have? Is paper.
Wow.
That's the real archive because it will last forever.
Absolutely.
So every document is printed. So, you know,
it's incredible, isn't it? Yeah,
if you want to keep something, then print it. I mean, I just can't afford to print out all my photographs.
Yeah, it becomes very expensive, isn't it? Yeah.
Because you can always re-photograph a photograph. Yeah. But if the hard drive goes down, which I've had in the past, if I lost 60,000 negatives about 14 years ago, I just had to write it on. So, okay. Yeah. And the saddest thing was there were some pictures I took of my mum before she died. All of those. That was a very personal thing. But all the other stuff, actually, I'm thinking, actually, it's not that important.
No. But the personal things that can be.
The thing that we have to, and I didn't realise that these things happen.
Yeah, they do happen, don't they? Yeah, we're a very fragile world, and there's not much to do about those things.
But we've digressed an awful lot from what your question. I was just wanting to give you the roller coaster sort of experience. They all come in to what I work with, and I don't really have any single influence. I'm a bit like a sponge.
Yeah, sure.
It all comes in, and I in the early hours of the morning try to make some sort of rational thought on it all.
And that's interesting.
Most of the time, never, but...
But that's interesting. It's more of an exploration. It's more of a journey. It's more... It is. Almost intuitive. And it's quite hard, isn't it, as an artist, you know, to make sense of that and still have a visual style and still be identified.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah, that's...
But I think, I mean, we're talking, you know, on your questions, going back, like... What do you think the effect of this whole pandemic is going to be? Yeah. Not just about how a photographer might use the opportunity or not use the opportunity. I'm doing a lot of gardening. That's my opportunity. I'm actually doing a lot of vegetable gardening, whatever. But I'm hoping that there is going to be change. We all are. Because, as I say, we don't want to go back to normal. Right. But I think, and it was something, one of my... friends of mine is a major artist, and he was talking before this. He said it's madness, this sort of proliferation. He was so busy with everything, employing people, you know, paying out huge amounts, therefore having to bring in money to pay people, etc. Massive pressure, etc. And we were talking the other week on the phone about the age of acceleration. And it's a concept that's actually nothing new. But this idea is that, and he was talking in regard, he's listening to a radio program, probably on Radio 4, is that in a way, when I look at the whole thing of the art world, you know, my first art council grant was just turning up at the Women's Arts, going in with no real clear clue about what I wanted to do and being given some money. I didn't have to give them the receipts. I said, "Do you want a report?" He said, "Well, whenever you're ready." I never did write a report. I mean, there's lots. People will tell you loads of different stories, but we're in a world now. Now, if you go for an arts council grant, I went for a thing here, initiative that was a lot of money, and I went and I had a meeting with the arts council with a lot of other artists there, and I just looked at it all and I said, "This is utter madness." This is not about the art, you know. This is not, it's about a lot of other issues, and it's about an amazing set of form filling. And I just thought, you know, actually, if I was gonna, you say, okay, you can borrow 1,000. Now, for some people, that's a huge amount of money. I could do a commercial job or some print work, so I print for artists, whatever, and I could accrue that money and say, okay, this job is going to cost me. Because it's all digital, so I'm not actually really physically making materials. It may be travel or whatever. I can make something for quite cheap money. I can actually do that without filling all these forms. And what I don't have as well is an organisation telling me how I should do it. because I might, in the making of something, and which goes back to my time from art school 50 years ago, so 45 years, it's quite valid for an artist to start on one journey, and in the process of working on that, is to change that and move into a different direction, which has more validity. But if you have to write your journey and your end game before you start it, in actual fact, you're defrauding yourself about where you're going. And my advice, big advice to anybody, as it has been when I was teaching, whatever, yes, you will be influenced. Yes, you will be a parody. You will copy. You will bastardize, whatever. But in that, you will find your voice. It will only be a slight inflection. It won't be a brand, as I said, some people had a brand new voice, but even then they weren't that brand new. But your contribution will be a little inflection. And when you've got that, you've got to be true to that and stick with it. It may take time. It may never happen. But what I could stand up now and say, I've never deviated. I have rejected stuff when I want to do that. This is not me.
Yeah, sure.
Why should I?
Yeah, why should you do that? Yeah.
I should. I'm going to stick with myself. My truth. It may not be popular. It may not be contemporary, but it's not why I do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure. Yeah.
I need to communicate, and I want to communicate my way. There'll be years when nobody is listening, literally. And then somebody said, ooh. Did you say? And then you'll have a few weeks of somebody listening to you. Then you're back in the cupboard. Then you're banished to the stair, under the stairs, and nobody wants to hear you.
And then
but that it was my voice.
I think they're great points, really. I think, the art world does speed things up, and it does become about form filling. It does. I think a lot of artists are almost brokers. They're brokers to, big organisations, and they're using the right language, and they're kind of altering and kind of really confining their practice to fit in with somebody else's agenda, which is a real shame, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, in a sense, it's like it's what happens when you do a commercial job.
Sure.
So let's say you're working in advertising. I spent 2 years in advertising and fashion, whatever, and when I just left art school, and I got out of it because I felt it quite corrupt as a practice. Sexually, I did, not in any other way. I thought, it's not for me. It's going to corrupt what I'm trying to do. And what happens now is that doing an arts, doing a funding bite is no different to you working for an art director in an ad agency. Comes to you and said, this is the criteria. Work with that, and we'll pay you. What difference is that? Which actually is more honest. For me, that's a more honest approach. To go to artists and give them, you can do it, and then to straighten them down and said, but it has to be within this confines. Nobody is giving people money.
Sure. No.
I see what you do. I trust you. Here's £1,000. Come back to me in 6 months and blow my socks off. Which is what they should be doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what they should be doing by looking and say, this person is interesting. I'm going to back this person. It's what happens in the great periods of analogy with the music industry. When the arts industry is like 40, 50 years behind. And I was watching a very interesting program about a guy, and I can't remember his name, and he worked for it was a documentary in 60s, 70s. He was an accountant, whatever, but he became the R&D guy for he discovered the greats. Because he trusted them. He said, so you've got something there, I'm backing you. A lot of the people that he was backing didn't work out. Of course not everybody will. But in there, there'll be the payback is so huge, it funds all the.
It doesn't matter.
But now we're in this world where everything has to succeed. You can't fail. Colleges can't fail. Universities can't fail. You can't fail as an artist. You can't. And I'm thinking the whole point of life is failure.
Failure, yeah.
Failure makes you succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it gives you that experience. It makes you succeed, and like you say, I think the funding should give people an amount of time, an allocated time where they can grow, and you nurture them, and they grow. They take their own journey.
Yeah, but you don't tick boxes. You can't quantify that.
No,
no,
they can't.
Guide. You know, all I did as an art tutor was students come to me is I say, right, okay, it's go with it. Just be aware. This is interesting.
Yeah,
Here, that's not so, but just go with it. But not telling them what to do. By the time I'd finished in arts education, those open-ended briefs that I had when I was, you know, in Coventry in 1972 didn't exist anymore, which is what I spent my whole career teaching was based on it. They were then, it started to come in where they had to give an outcome. Huh? What outcome? How can you give art an outcome?
It hasn't gone.
Come to a guy doing some plumbing and said, okay, the outcome is that I've got water, hot water. Fine. Sort your process out to give me hot water. You can't say that to an artist. Okay, your outcome is, what is the point of doing it? The whole point of doing it is to explore and find out and do things.
Explore, and it should be fluid. It should be about finding yourself.
You don't worry about failing. You only see what I think you should see. You don't see what I've got shoved in the bin.
Sure,
But sometimes even that, 5 years later, you think, well, actually, there's something in there. It's quite interesting. I missed it first time round. Maybe I should tweak it out again and bring it out. You know,
and it's that thing. It's like glimmer, isn't it? It's like glimmer of something interesting that you might discard, but your art teacher might think, this is amazing. This is a revelation.
Yeah.
And you know, we usually, you know, it's a way of making work. It's being bored. It's having time. And you might be a photographer that photographs doors, but you don't realize it. But you look back over a couple of years, go, oh, actually, subconsciously, I'm photographing that same door time and time again. And
they never. Sometimes, I mean, I'm doing a show. I don't know whether it'll happen at the Cut in Ellsworth. And it's on the screen here. Is just something that's on a loop. It's an idea that came out of an. When I started working with video, and I remember I came from a film. The video didn't exist when I was at art school. I remember there was video, but there's no video edit suites. It was spliced.
Spliced 16 mm.
Until the editing suites came out, video didn't really take off in a major way. And it opened up a whole box of new artists coming in, mainly a lot of women too. That they could. It was easy technology. That male dominance of the film industry was being broken down by easy access. And even now, even with digital stuff, with people's phones, you don't need training. You just do it. And if you want to know how to do something, you know, somebody says to me, do I go to art school? I said, really? You want to be 50 grand in debt? If you've got ideas and you've got or whatever it is, just go on YouTube. I sit on one screen on YouTube. How do I do this? Oh, right. Okay. Because I know where I want to go.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
But I don't really want to go. I wouldn't go to art school now. I would understand because it's different. It's a different arena, but I really don't want to be that much in debt. I left art school with 50 pence and I don't do anybody.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's a different landscape, isn't it, really, I think.
Totally.
But really, like when I studied, it was kind of, I went to an art college and it was a transition of becoming a university. But that was a huge, you know, it's really institutionalized, you know, teaching changed. Even the room layouts changed, the dark rooms went, the office classrooms came in, and it was a real, it was a very strange time, really. But I was quite lucky that I had that kind of more kind of fluid, you know, art school experience where I could be more experimental. And the tutor was there to give encouragement, to nurture, and just to kind of open my mind to new artists and philosophy and ways of working. But it wasn't structured, which was in a lot of ways a great time. But I recommend a lot of people coming from my studio. You know, I wouldn't necessarily go to university. I'd probably get a really good mentor. My money on a great mentor. Yeah,
a mentor, and then YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm putting a show on in October, and it's been a concept since the 1980s.
Yeah,
but wasn't technically possible.
Yeah, sure.
And so whether it'll happen, I don't know. I mean, I'm still, I mean, I found some stuff that I did in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
That I'm working with in video.
Yeah.
And I'm now working, and it's this idea of time. I've always been fascinated with time.
Yeah.
So whether even my portraits that I did, the Biographica series, which was on this special sort of sliding panoramic camera, took 2 shots and then stitched together, a left and a right.
Yeah.
It's ultra wide. They had to sit there for at least a second or 2 seconds without moving.
Oh, okay.
And what I liked was the idea, and it still thrills me. We think about photography being an instant moment.
Yeah.
A Kodak instant.
Sure.
And Bill, Cartier-Bresson with precise moment of time, which I sort of never really sort of went with. It, that even in that frame, there is time, and things can change. But if you expand that time to say a second or 2 seconds, or even longer, I'm quite thrilled that over that 2-second exposure, the light has changed. There's been a movement. There's been a change of state.
Sure.
And I captured that in a portrait.
Yeah.
The painter has that. A painter will work in different conditions, and he'll have all of that history of that space, of that time, of that light and everything. It's all in the painting. Whereas a photographer is supposed to get it all in one shot.
Yeah.
I never really sort of went with that, because that's where, I didn't do a photographic degree. So in a sense, I wasn't like, dare I say it, and this is really, really controversial, dare I say, I wasn't, what's the word I'm looking at? I wasn't sort of brainwashed into thinking in a particular way. I came to the photographic arts, the dark arts, from very different perspectives and different reasons. So I became, if you like, I've always been known as a maverick. I've been told that by Gary. You're difficult to handle because you're a maverick. Because suddenly we think you're doing this, and that's branding, because they want to brand you, whatever. I said, don't brand me. I don't want to be put in a box.
I need to do something else.
Also, everything in my life, my whole life has been this journey of a surfer. I will switch away. I think, it's like you sort of, and I don't really want to be pigeonholed.
No, sure.
And I quite, and so I will work with my concepts are constant.
Yeah, sure.
How I use that and how I work with that, those materials and those processes will change.
Sure.
Because I am fascinated by technology, engineering. I love physics. I love chemistry. When I was at school, and to me, they were as valid as any art or music, whatever. They were just part of the great, this thing called the human brain. This whole thing is that the human being is the most phenomenal thing. They're capable of doing such great things. It's also capable of doing the most destructive of things. But you look to the Michelangelo or Leonardo or a mathematician, a whole range of people have changed the way we think, and the way we. And they are human beings like us,
Yeah, absolutely.
But they had either the imagination or they didn't accept the status quo. They're always the question. Always ask why, not how.
Yeah.
People ask me how because a lot of technology is involved in what I do, so it's quite natural. People say, "Well, how did you do it?" And I said, "Well, actually, ask me why." I think it was Man Ray. Don't ask the why, how. Ask the why. Why do you do this?
Why you do it, not how.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that profound.
No. And sometimes, and like you were saying about the process, I think the process of photography and long exposure has always really fascinated me. There's all that latency, there's all that potential, and like you say, you don't know what's going to happen over a 10-second exposure. Even with digital, like it was slow with analog and film, but even with digital, you've got that processing time, and it's very unpredictable. But also, it extends human vision, it extends our parameters, it extends everything we perceive. which is
it gives us an understanding, because I'm very interested and have been for a long time. That's what this show is really. It's called Wish You Were Here. It's all about the whole experience of the seaside from when I was a child right the way through to, and it's this thing what I call micro moments, these little incidents of time when you slow it right down, these little gestures, these little movements that happen in this choreography. When I was a stills photographer, I would be watching this choreography and try and capture the one frame. Like, is this
the one perfect frame?
And I think it actually, and it started in the 80s when I was doing a lot of, for a show with a Coventry art gallery. I changed what I was doing. I said to him, the great curator there called Patrick Day, 2 years before the show, he looked at my work, and I just done a big show at the photography guy. He said, can you do this? We'll do this. I said, but I said, I'll just say one thing. It may not be what you get. He said, I said, no, because that's now. In 2 years' time.
Sure. Got to change.
Of course, it wasn't what he expected, but it was, but I started to work with Super 8 with that, because I was quite interested. When you're a portrait photographer, when you're setting something up, and I was quite foremost. I was, Diane Arbus was a massive, still is.
Sure.
Big fan.
Yeah.
August Sander, Diane Arbus, that whole formalistic view of taking a portrait. And that goes way back to, 15th, 16th century portraits, whole by whatever, this whole thing of how we present ourselves to the camera.
Sure. Yeah.
Rather than you directing people, I would say, okay, I'm taking your portrait, you present how you want to be, wear what you want to wear, because this, I am not doing a fashion shoot where I'm all the time, I'm not art directing you. I'm not going to tell you, can you look here, whatever. You look at me how you want to look at me. So they're quite broad like that. But I'm very well aware, I was then, that in all this, there's a performance element.
Sure.
Okay? They're performing, but I'm also performing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are moments before and after of the picture that I took. And so I started to, I haven't got those films, I didn't do many, probably 3 or 4, where I have a Super 8 camera running alongside me taking the stills.
Oh, okay, interesting.
If you saw the still photograph, which is what I was choosing, I may have shot maybe a dozen pictures.
Yeah.
But I filmed the whole event from the camera's point of view, not behind me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I quite wanted to do this show, and I was talking to the photographers about this idea of a little booth where you saw the print, and then you went into a little booth, there was a little Super 8 film of what actually happened.
Sure.
What happened for that to happen?
What's that process? Yeah.
And I'm doing it now, because now digitally that is a different thing. So this thing I'm doing in October is like 40 years of beach photography.
Oh, wow. It sounds amazing.
It goes back, the earliest images, I think, 1979.
Okay. But that's interesting, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be, I've been working, I can do it because the technology is now cheap enough. It's good enough. And I can do what I wanted to do in the late 80s, early 90s. But technology, if it was available, would have been just astronomical.
But that's amazing to realise that now. That's incredible.
I don't know whether anybody's going to be open in October.
Who knows?
You know.
Who knows? It might be.
Yeah, we don't know.
We just don't know what happens. But I think it's really interesting what you're talking about, portraiture. I think a good portrait is a three-way kind of relationship. It's the camera, it's the technology, it's the sitter, and it's the person, taking the photograph. And like you said, it should be a collaboration. It should be.
It's collaboration.
It is a collaboration. It shouldn't be forced or proposed. Yeah.
Because I came back. I can't say I just came back because it was like 5-6 months ago. But I'd made this film on Lawrence Edwards in the making of Man of Stones. Yeah. And he's been working with the Doncaster Miners, which everything's presumably all been put on hold now. And I've been working a bit with that. But we went to the Arctic, and the idea that I would film this 2-hour sitting.
Okay.
He did a wax.
Oh, okay.
Directly with wax. And there would be this dialogue, and I would be filming it, and I'd also be taking pictures and recording the audio, the stories. Because with anybody, even if you're taking a photograph, there is communication and dialogue between the sitter and the maker.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely common.
Yeah.
And some people, you know, it's like, I can take a portrait and it's only going to be a good, if I know the person. I'm not very good at taking a stranger. I don't have the tools.
It's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
Everybody I've ever really photographed, there's been a connection. I've known them. Maybe a friend of a friend, whatever. I've chatted to them, etc. I've never just gone up to somebody. And I'm always fascinated because a friend of mine, Eamon McCabe, who's a great portrait photographer.
Yeah.
And his tales that he tells about how he takes a portrait. And there's one where he's done of the Gorbachevs.
Yeah.
And he was the Guardian sent him along, and he gets there. They said, "Yeah, it's in a basement." Okay. And he has no idea the lighting, the situation where it's an assignment.
Why?
He had to get a picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I would just like, I don't know, I probably wouldn't. But anyway, and he's got this great image because he went down to the cell, there was bodyguards, whatever, and he had literally a couple of minutes.
Wow, that's crazy.
A light came in through this window in this sort of basement area that gave the image. And it's fantastic.
Amazing.
He can do that. The great portrait photographers who are on assignment, whether it's Irving, but not those who can spend 10 hours setting it up.
Yeah, sure. Those people can
turn up. Those press photographers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get that shot. Yeah. 5 seconds to do it. And in the old days, it wasn't a motion. It was a speed graphics. It was a plate, a ball, flash.
Yeah, sure.
If you've got another chance, you might, but you better get it right on the first one. I admire all of that because I can't do it.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's very hard, isn't it, to adapt and.
I'm not even going to entertain him. Go there and try it. You know, I know where I can operate from, and that's part of knowing what you do, which gives you the confidence. I know there's some things I can do very well. Yeah. But there's a lot of things. I don't have the experience. I don't have the energy or the enthusiasm to sort of do it. Therefore, there are guys and women and a range of artists who can do that, and they do it brilliantly well. Why should I go in and mess it up?
Yeah, play to your strengths. Yeah, why not? Yeah, why do that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. We haven't followed your script.
We haven't at all, but that's good. I don't really.
I used it as a sort of
script, but I think you've answered more than enough questions. I think in a more entertaining way rather than me just reeling off questions, which is great. It's fantastic. That was the whole point. It was meant to be the
conversation. It's the conversation between me and you.
Yeah, and that's the great thing, isn't it? Yeah.
There's a very famous book produced by. It's called Dialogue with Photography.
Yeah.
Warhill and too long ago. And that's a dialogue with some of the world's greats.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation. You know, it's like we're in a pub, you have a chat, and opens up things and nuggets. And I don't have a script. You know.
Yeah.
Like take it and you something all pre-script.
Yeah.
I've never met you before.
No.
So I don't know how we were going to get on to chat to, you know, because you can.
It's hard, isn't it? Some people it's hard, but
this is like making blood out of a stone, or this person's not responding.
Yeah, sure. But I think we've done pretty well, to be honest.
I say to everybody out there, just keep making stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
I changed my direction in my life in 2005.
Okay.
I won't go into it, but I got back into the studio and I thought, what am I going to photograph? I spent 20 years in cyberspace. I mean, I literally had gone on this sort of mad technological thing in outer space. Yeah. And I was brought back to Earth. And all I had in my studio, which wasn't really a proper studio, it was a spare room in the house when I was living in. And it had some lovely windows at the side, beautiful light. And the only thing I had was some tissue paper.
Oh, okay.
And I just looked at this tissue paper, and I looked at the light, I looked at the way that it moved, and I thought, what would happen if I shot it at a second or whatever? And that began a journey.
Wow.
That was a total change from when literally I was working in a totally different environment.
Sure.
And all I could do, it gave me time to think. And all I had was a camera, some daylight, and some tissue paper.
Yeah.
And that's all you needed. I didn't need
that's what you need, isn't it? Yeah, you didn't need anything else.
And it led to a whole series of different stuff.
Yeah.
Just relax. Basically, be the child. Be the one that all I've been doing the whole of my life is to try and go back to those days when I was a kid, when the whole world was this biggest, wow. That's what I've been trying to do.
The biggest game.
The excitement of the child. When we grow up, we put barriers into our feelings, our thinking. Oh, we can't do that. Whatever. Yes, you can.
Why can't we do that?
Let it go. And don't rush it. It doesn't matter if it takes you 10 years. I've got ideas. I'm still working on after 5 years. I don't know whether it's going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter.
No. You're having fun, you're exploring, you're being creative. That's the main thing.
Just don't take that stress. The age of acceleration, it's got to end.